Hello, I'm Kate Olson, and I'm here with Maria Salamoa Schmidt, and we're going to do a soul talk. And this soul talk, I'm Kate, the host of Embrace Change with Kate on Embrace Change Radio. And Maria is also a coach, and so we're going to talk about something that we encounter a lot, limiting beliefs, and we're going to just see where that conversation goes. So I'm going to ask Maria to introduce herself.
Hello, Kate, and hello, everybody. I'm Maria Salamoa Schmidt, and I'm a life coach and an author. My book, Finally Full of Yourself, Unlocking Your Spiritual DNA, made it to Amazon's top 100 books on happiness, which I'm really, really psyched. It was actually one of the top books for a week in India on happiness, which is like the number one book in India on happiness. That must have been an interesting week in India.
Yes.
It was like the random thing of it, just like, what? And I was a guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and I live part of the time in Portugal and part of the time outside of Boston. And I love, love, love talking to you.
Yes, I actually met Maria on LinkedIn, and then I had her on the radio show. I think it was last February, and it turned out that in April I went to Boston for a symposium, and I got to meet Maria and spend the afternoon, and I had a great time talking with her. So I thought she'd be great to talk to for one of the soul talks. So we're here, and we're about to talk about limiting beliefs. So just to start out with, what do limiting beliefs mean to you?
So being a life coach, I've been coaching, I like to say, since the 1900s. And people, as have you, I'm assuming, but people limiting beliefs is kind of like the ceiling of how you let the world treat you, and how important you think, how much you deserve, or how much of you the world can see. So the limiting, it's kind of like the size of your box, almost like what you're willing to take. And I see that people who have limiting beliefs, which almost all of us have some limiting beliefs. So it's impossible, I think, to have unlimiting beliefs unless maybe you don't have a body. But since for us humans, us energy beings that have both a body and our energy, I think part of what we've learned along the way is how to stay small so we can stay safe. And I think what's happening now is it's such a crazy, crazy time that maybe what felt safe when we were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, last year doesn't, like, people are like now being a lot more like running for office like they never did before, and speaking up for the environment like they never did before, because it's like their fear of not saying something has gone out the door because it's so crazy making right now that people are just like, I'm getting total goosebumps as I'm talking. I don't know, like, so that limiting belief is shifting for a lot of people.
Yeah, that is when we tackle our limiting beliefs, is when our fear of something is greater than whatever fear or idea created the limiting belief. Like for me, my fear of speaking was, I had a limiting belief around that. I felt like that was something that I couldn't do. I felt like like I would always be afraid, and it would always create those fear feelings in me that I didn't like having.
Right.
And so my belief was, this is something you can't do. And of
Right.
course,
Right.
that's a limiting belief, because obviously I can do it.
Would you literally hear that voice in your head when you were going to be in that situation, or you thought about that situation, like of speaking?
I would get the feeling of fear, that feeling, that fear feeling where, yeah. So, and I didn't want to have that feeling, so I didn't want to do it. And I did have an occasion where I got up to talk in front of people and I just blanked. And, I remember that. I did keep talking, but I didn't say what I had planned to say, and I was really unhappy with it.
Yeah. Yep.
Even though, it was better than just standing up there, like a deer in headlights.
Yeah. So what did you, when you first did, was the fear before that incident or after that incident?
The fear was before that incident, and I was pushing myself to do it, even though I didn't like it.
Yep.
And, the anxiety set in, and I had the experience that I feared having.
Yeah.
So,
Got that
then it was in the mid-90s, and I was doing little workshops just kind of on the side, and they started getting noticed, and people asked me to come and speak in front of bigger groups. And I knew that was what I needed to do if I wanted to make, I didn't know there was such thing as coaches then. It was just
consultants or
something that I was doing. And if I wanted to do that instead of working at a regular job, I knew that I needed to do that. So I was pushing myself to do it, but I didn't feel comfortable with it. And when that happened, shortly after that, I stopped doing my workshops because, it was leading to something I didn't like. So that's why, when I was doing the coaching now and I got the invitation to go speak at Harvard, I decided to do it. And that was the year before actually it was 2 years before.
So you'll find this an interesting story. I used to do a lot of public speaking when I lived in San Francisco. And there was this one time I did a talk, again, same thing. It was before coaching was coaching. Mm-hmm. And I did this talk where there was, it was a keynote in front of 800 people, almost 1,000 people. And everyone, let's say 30 people came up to me afterwards and said, great job, great job, great job. And then one person came up to me and said, you were horrible. You should give the money back. This was the worst talk I've ever gone to. You call yourself a professional. And it so struck me in that I literally stopped speaking for 10 years. I did not for 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It was horrible. It felt horrible to me. And
yes. Now we know that we don't have to take what somebody else says, especially one person.
Yeah. So it's that thing of like, it really moves you. It really makes you think like, and a lot of people say, why did you let him do that to you? I said, he didn't do that to me. I did that to me. That was my limited. The poor man did nothing. He just shared his opinion. Maybe he had a bad day. Maybe he just didn't like the way I spoke, but whatever. It was enough for him. His words were enough for me to shut down for 10 years. And anyone who knows me knows I love to speak in public, but it's almost like, oh, my biggest fear came true. Now I need to shut down.
Yes.
And how silly, because now it's a totally different thing.
Yeah. Once, well, I still get that fear feeling when I go to speak in front of a group of people. If it's a small group, I'm fine. I'm fine with, the radio and the video now. A big group of people, still scary, but I know I can do it. You
So let
know
me
it.
ask you a question, Kate, because this is part of the theory that I have. So we've lived more our lives based on our, what I call the meat body, the physical body versus the energy body. And we don't really we know like 30 feelings, and then that's it. So we lump it all together. We do a lot of lumping. You know how like Eskimos have like 200 names for snow or ice because they are around it? Well, I think as we evolve as human beings, we're going to get more words for feelings that we just lumped into like fear or I'm
Yeah,
scared.
yeah,
And I
that
think
is
one
true.
of the things that we do is when we're going to speak in front of one person, so you and I today here, we're going to have one level of energy. And if you were going to speak in front of 1,000 people, you would get another download of energy. You'd get like another energy. So like, because your energy now has to go to 1,000 hearts. You're there to connect with 1,000 hearts. So the download or the energy stream you're going to get is an example would be like if you're speaking for your meat body, if you're speaking in front of one person, you're not going to scream or talk loudly. But if you're going to speak to like 1,000 people, you're going to raise your voice and because there's more. So the same thing with the energy. And if energy were coming down for you with 1,000 people, it would feel like hot, and maybe your palms would get sweaty, and maybe you'd feel like butterfly because you're getting ready to speak. So that what we take as, oh, I'm nervous or I'm scared, could be I'm getting a download of energy. I'm ready for, I have the volume of energy I need to touch all of those hearts.
Yes, that is part of the how to change up that feeling, how to change that limiting belief is I don't actually call it scared when I talk to myself anymore. I call it excited.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even though inside a little bit I feel that what I call fear.
Yeah, that
I
anxiety, that worry.
Yeah, you know,
So
I
is that,
know that if you do, if I frame it that way long enough, it'll
yeah,
start feeling that way.
yeah, yeah. And it might also be, it's not the feeling, it's the translation of the feeling. It's like hearing the drill at the dentist's office. You're not actually getting drilled, but you're getting the feeling of what you was like when you got drilled. It's like, because if you were going to speak in front of all of those people and you didn't get that, you'd probably be really boring and uninterested. But it means like you're like connected to it, like you're getting excited over it. It's like a form of excitement, like you said, I'm excited. Like
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I get to speak in front of those people.
Yes. And if you can concentrate on, oh, I have this important thing to say.
Yeah.
You know.
Remember your strong why of why you're doing it. Like, why are you doing it? And every time you go, it's like sometimes people when they're going out at night, they don't want to go, or to an event, they don't want to go. And then when they go, they're like, oh, I'm so happy I went, or on vacation or a weekend or connecting with their friend and like, oh, I'm so glad I went. It's like, yeah, it's like, just let yourself go. It's that limiting belief of making you small. Oh, it's like futurescaping. Like you use your imagination to think of how bad it's going to be so that you shut down.
Yes, and a lot of times we don't even know or recognize what are, like that one, I knew it was a limiting belief, but some of them we think it's part of us or who we are. we don't recognize it as a limiting belief. Like before I made the change, I had another big change that I made. And that was, I have decades without pictures. Yeah, I would not let anybody take my picture.
You didn't have any pictures for her wedding because no, take pictures of anything but me, she said.
Yeah, and I would go like this. I would tell people no. But then, I don't know, I guess it was about 2002, I was looking at past pictures and seeing, what my son has grown and all of these pictures with me not in them. And realizing that, I felt like I hadn't been there.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted to change that.
Wow.
So the very first thing I did that year was I took, like family pictures with my son, from a photographer. And I absolutely didn't like how they turned out. But I gave them, to my family for Christmas. And they were like, what? Pictures of
Who's
you?
This lady?
Yes. And, they
looks just like you.
Yeah, they couldn't believe that I had done that. And, they always, I remember always feeling hassled at family events because they would always try to take pictures of me. Yeah. And, having to say no and, or wanting to say no. I guess I didn't have to. And what I found out was two things. I had two limiting beliefs. One, I believed I couldn't smile. Two, when somebody told me to smile for a picture. Yeah. And I also believed that all the pictures turned out bad. Yeah. And they did, because I, very rarely let anyone take my picture. And you know how many pictures it takes to get a good one when you're having pictures done?
Yeah.
Or, even if somebody is taking pictures, like 10 of them will be bad and 2 will be good.
Right.
So I didn't know that. I thought just everybody else's pictures turned out good and just mine were awful. And also I learned that when you go like that, that does not make the best picture. So
definitely top 10. Don't do this.
Yeah, so these,
that could be the cover for this episode.
Yeah, these these were things that I just totally believed to be
3
true.
o'clock.
Yep.
And I had to go through the process of forcing myself to allow pictures to be taken to find out that it wasn't true. There are still lots of pictures that I do not like of me. But I know that, some turn out okay.
Yeah. But it's just well, there's a should in there. There's a stuck point in there where you don't know how to shift. Like you have a belief of something that's a belief that maybe other people don't have, like normal society doesn't. But like you hold that belief as it is. That's a lot of energy for a long time, and that's usually what it is. Like, it's so funny. Fear of public speaking is usually, the audience is thinking, I just don't want to be bored. And the person's like, they're going to hate me or love me. And it's like, it's not like that at all. It's that thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I haven't had anybody throw tomatoes yet. But,
Pick up a big pot of something, just an empty pot. It's like, why is that? In case you guys throw tomatoes, we can make some pasta later on or something. Let yourself go with it. But people just don't want to be bored. That's what it is. I think that's it. And I think it's a time of massive change right now for human beings. And this is just a really important time to look at your limiting beliefs and go with what comes up.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of, well, an important part of it anyway is self-awareness, actually discovering what you do believe that is underlying those things that are holding you back from whatever, you know, if it's that you believe you can't do something, or you believe you're not good enough, or you believe that the obstacles are too big, or
That's it. It's again, your belief is your focus point. And if you could just shift that focus point a little bit, ask for the help you need, and just keep seeing it. It's like what Brene Brown says about, showing up, being vulnerable and showing up and just saying, this is it. I was horrified those 10 years. It was like a wound. I did not want to bring it. I never talked to, even now talking about it. So like that person 10 years ago, or that not 10 years ago, but that 10 years, like I would never have told anyone even about the story. Oh, I just stopped talking. Like, oh, I'm writing now or whatever. But I was horrified to even bring it up. Up. That's like, no. And now it's nothing. Now it has no power over me at all.
Yeah, one thing is, who does that? I mean, who goes up to a speaker and says something like that?
Yeah.
Even if you didn't particularly like the talk.
Yeah, and you got to remember too, so this was 10 years of marinating in it. So maybe it's possible that it wasn't even as bad as I would describe it to you right now. That's how I remember it, right? He did say
maybe
that he gives the money back. He did say that it was the worst talk he ever did. Like, so these are things he actually did say. So, but it's just like, it might be that, I don't know, but like everything you do, that's the part that's kind of like,
what was your talk on?
It was just a keynote speech, like an inspiring keynote speech. And I did it, I brought in someone who escaped from a camp, a concentration camp. Mm-hmm. Someone at the time who was an acquaintance of mine who had escaped a camp, and how she did it, and just gratitude and all these messages. And yeah, it was not a lot of people like were crying. It was kind of like it was a good talk. And I think maybe it just hit, I don't know, it had a Jewish theme. I don't know. I don't know. But I forgot what I was going to say.
Maybe he just had a different expectation.
Yeah, and people are doing the best they can with what they have. And I think whoever comes into your space comes in for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. So it's just like, he is an amazing teacher for me. I hold nothing against him. It was just like, that's what he was thinking, and that's what he was thinking. That's what came out. It doesn't define who I am. It doesn't, or it could, but that's just where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very empowering when we can get to a place where it is hard when we're all affected by criticism. We're conditioned to be affected by criticism. But when you can get to a place where, not necessarily that you ignore it, but that you will take it in a way, okay, well, I'll evaluate for validity and go from there. Because, okay, if somebody came up to me and said, I just really hate how you say "and so" all the time in your radio show, I would say, yeah, I know, I'm trying to get over that. I wouldn't be offended by that, because it's a valid criticism.
Kate, if I can get to an extreme example right now, if you allow me to go there. So I just shared with you earlier that I got re-diagnosed with breast cancer. And I have a lot of people, friends and family, that have reacted very, very negatively. And they say they're doing it out of love because I'm choosing not to do the allopathic way, because to me, it doesn't make sense. In nature, there's nothing you poison to make it healthier. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I've tried certain methods that they've suggested, 2 surgeries, and it just made the cancer grow more. So I'm doing it my own way now, right? And to them, it is as if I've said, I've given up, because to them, it sends them. So I understand that they're doing the best they can with what they have.
Mm-hmm.
And doing my best not to feel like the bad girl, like they bring in like I'm hurting my children, like I'm gonna die and leave my kids, I'm a bad mom, all of that stuff. And just reminding myself, checking in with myself, like, is that true? Am I doing that? Am I being a bad mother according to what I feel is a bad mother? Am I not showing up? Am I hiding? Am I not being, I had one doctor that shut the door and put her cart in front of the door, and for 2 hours was telling me, she started off saying, let's talk about fear and courage, because she thought I was afraid of the surgeries, or afraid of the chemo, afraid of this. So I was like saying no because I was afraid. It's like, this is the brave thing. I'm not trying to do the brave thing, but going against what traditionally has been done, when your intuition is saying no and your life is at stake. Either way, your life is at stake, and you still have small children, and
Yes.
to say you're being selfish, and you're like, that's the part that, like, the first time that I did the surgeries, I acquiesced. I did what they wanted. Everyone treated me beautifully. I was back like, yay, you did the right thing. I know this is hard, but you did the right thing. And it was not the right thing for me. And so, yeah.
People are afraid to go against the
powers that
allopathic.
be, whatever it is. And they think if you go against it, that you're just trying to be combative and stuff. That makes no sense, because
it's
what do you win?
I don't agree with that, the traditional treatment for cancer in most cases. In some cases, it is either the best or the only treatment. I mean, like, but when I'm around somebody, when it's somebody that I know and I'm around them, one thing that a sense that I have is I can tell if that person is, I can tell if they're going to die. And I have had friends that have been diagnosed with cancer or other things and have gone through that treatment. And I could actually feel, the life, and strength draining out of them. And I knew that the treatment was actually killing them. I can't say for sure if they had gone the other way, if they would have lived. But I know what you are saying, that, one of the women, the chemo affected her heart valve. So then she had to have open heart surgery. Then after that, the cancer metastasized. and she had to have another round of chemo.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was just, it took all of her strength away.
It makes no sense to me. I can only do me. Like it makes no sense to me. Like I come from my body made three people, three of my most favorite people. It made the cancer, or right. So I can do things, and there's certain conditions. They say that if you have cancer, by the time you discover it, it's been around for at least 5 years growing. So like, okay, so like, there, and I was super unhappy before. I was like just burning it at both ends. Like I was like, and so for me, changing those things and getting back to a place where like, what legacy do you want to live? And here's the thing, nobody knows how long they're going to live here. It's all assuming a lot. You know, when you get to a certain age, when you get to closer to our ages versus being 20, you like, a lot of people, you know, have passed, a lot of people, you know, and it makes you, you know, that things that make you go, like it makes you contemplate, like, what do you want to do with your one great life? Like, that's why when we're saying limiting beliefs, that's things like that that make you grow. Would I normally say no to family and friends? No, but this is like, that's their limiting belief, and I'm not going to let it, you know, come and adulterate my life because it's their stuff, not my stuff.
What I believe about this and is that if you feeling the way you do were to do the cancer treatment for other people,
Yes.
that I mean, aside from it being poison, it would be toxic emotionally.
I would die just from the thought of it, because nonchalantly to have a doctor say, you know, your teeth may fall out, your hair will definitely fall out, your cuticles may fall out, like to have all of these things of like your teeth will definitely like your gums will turn, your teeth will turn, like all of these, like you will look like you've been ravaged, and so nonchalantly, you know, like, and then we're going to remove your breasts, and then we're going to take stuff from here and put it here, and it's just like, and then they say okay, and at the end you're like, no, not okay. You need to have another question that you ask, because it's not okay. How can you ask me, is that okay? It's not okay.
Yeah.
It's really not okay. You know, it's
Yes.
barbaric. So just to give you an idea, I spent 2.5 months with not treatments, but of like going in and getting testing to see if it's, so they gave me radioactive dye to drink. They didn't even tell me it was radioactive. They put sugar in it because the cancer responds to sugar. So I drank that's how it, cancer 10 times more, so like it lights up. Then they put a body scan and it lights up. So where the radioactive dye is, the cancer takes it. That's how you know if it's spread or not. It's like very, like, they know sugar is the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Yet there's sugar everywhere, right? In hospitals, especially. So all of those, you know, I have claustrophobia, so like getting tiny tubes and being in there, I had to be drugged up to do it, and it still wasn't enough. Because so that anxiety and the of being in these places naked, being poked and prodded, bruised, and just to find out what I had, which they never did. And it's so bad now that when someone does Reiki on me and I'm lying flat and they put their hands over here, or I'm lying getting a massage with my head in the hole, I start freaking out. I start having panic attacks because the PTSD is so strong for just the initial things.
Okay.
You know?
For all of the thoughts that you have around that, it would probably take some work, but the claustrophobia you could get rid of with hypnosis.
Yeah, and actually the claustrophobia got so bad before, because that's not the first time I've had claustrophobia. I did go to a hypnotist, and you're right. Like, I can now get on planes again, and like where before, like I was on the runway in a plane for 8 hours delayed, and I was totally fine. That would not have happened before. I'd be like, crazy lady, you know, like, oh, and you know, panic attacks, once they start, it's not pretty. Once they're activated, you can tap, you can meditate, you can do it. Once it's activated, it's really, really,
Well,
really
you
hard.
can break the cycle. You can break
Yeah.
the cycle even when it started.
You can. It's just, so I find it like if I'm feeling one coming, I can do stuff to negate it quickly. If you're in it, I once was on a school bus on a field trip it was like a 45-minute ride, and I got one the second I got on the bus. And it was one of the first times I had ever had a panic attack. I didn't really even know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I was just going to jump out onto the highway. It was so bad. It was bad. And it wouldn't stop. So for 45 minutes, I was tapping and going back and forth. Like, oh, God.
Okay, there's like tossing a ball back from one hand to the other, or instead of that, go like this.
Like this?
Because if you do something that engages both sides of your brain,
yep, I'm doing it right
now. That'll help. How capable you are of doing that at that time might be a question. But if you can bring yourself to do it, it'll break the cycle.
That's why I love talking to you, Kate.
Well, it's just, yeah. Yeah, your brain is, in neuroscience, your brain is in disconnect, basically, when you're going through
it's like trying to connect to something, and if you do that, you're like, I'm more connected.
Yeah, anything that crosses the center line of your body,
it
engages both sides of your brain.
Yep.
That's why some therapists, people with anxiety, they'll give them those yarn.
Yes.
Where they wrap it back and forth, and you might see somebody doing that and you think they're knitting, and they're not. They have it for their anxiety.
That's, you know, I have an aunt who's going blind, and she used to be super creative, always crocheting, knitting, you know, watching things. And so she's going blind, and she lives alone. She can't do anything. And so she can only listen to the radio. It's really sad. Like it breaks her heart. So I had all of this yarn that I undid. And by accident, we found out that that's something that she can do. So it takes her a year to undo all the yarn that we did. And we don't care about the yarn. She just rolls it, and then we take it outside and we unroll it. It takes us about 4 hours to unroll everything. It's so much yarn. And then we come back and we give it to her again. And we give it to her again, and it's just, it's really funny that she, like, because she's blind, she can't see it. She goes, you guys have a lot of yarn, but she loves it because it's something to do. So.
Okay, we went over time here, Maria.
Oh,
so we're going to have to wrap it up. Is there some last thing that you would want to say about limiting beliefs?
You know, your limiting beliefs are just a passing thing. You get to choose which limiting belief you want and don't want. And, you know, we need all people right now, human beings, like we need all hands on deck. And I just ask you to look at what's the price you're paying for that and move forward, because we need you.
Very true. Okay, well, that is all the time we have. Those little pop-ups were reminding me that I have a call in 5 minutes. So I do have to go, but I've loved seeing you and talking to you, and I will send you the info.
Absolutely.
Yes. And
coast to coast.
Let's talk again soon.
Excellent. Excellent. Mwah. Bye, beautiful Kate. Thank you.
Okay.
Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.